The key to unlocking the great disappointment of 1844 lay in the sanctuary message, and as this was understood, they saw the hand of God guiding the Advent movement. As they comprehended this, they saw a complete system of truth, interconnected and harmonious. In chapter 24, we're going to see the applications and correlations between the most holy place in heaven with various Bible passages and stories. Just as Mary went to the tomb and was devastated when she did not find Jesus, so the believers in 1844 were brokenhearted when Jesus did not come as they hoped. But just as Mary turned and then saw Jesus in the garden, so the believers realized that whilst Jesus had not come, he was continuing his ministry in the most holy place. They saw a compassionate high priest who was soon becoming as a king and a deliverer. In time, they saw that the fulfillment of the first angel's message, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come, did not refer to the second coming of Jesus, but to Jesus' ministry in the most holy place through the investigative judgment. Malachi chapter 3 verse 1, it says, "The Lord whom ye seek shall come suddenly to his temple." They expected Jesus to return to the earth, but they were not yet ready to meet their Lord. In the next two verses it says, "Who can abide the day of his coming?" further expounding the seriousness of the judgment. Those who are alive on earth when the intercession of Christ shall cease shall have to stand before God with their robes spotless, purified by his grace, and their own diligent battles with evil. The next two verses, verses 4 and 5 of Malachi chapter 3, then talk about the coming of the Lord. Thus we see the coming of Jesus as the high priest to the most holy place in Daniel chapter 8 verse 14, Daniel chapter 7 verse 13, and Malachi chapter 3. They all describe the same event. We also see this as the coming of the bridegroom to the marriage in Matthew chapter 25 in the parable of the 10 virgins described by Jesus. In this parable, the coming of the bridegroom takes place before the marriage, and the marriage is represented by the reception of Christ by his kingdom. The bride is also described as the New Jerusalem in Revelation 21 verse 9 and 10. The bride represents the holy city. The virgins that go to meet the bridegroom are symbols of the church. And in Revelation 19, the people of God are described as guests at the marriage supper. If they are guests, then they cannot also be the bride. Behold, the bridegroom cometh was preached in 1844, and thousands expected the immediate return of Jesus. But at the appointed time, the bridegroom came, not to earth as expected, but to the Ancient of Days, to the marriage supper, to the reception of Christ in his kingdom. The followers of Christ are to wait for Jesus to return from the wedding, as it says in Luke 12:36. Those who had waited and endured the bitter trial of disappointment, who searched their scriptures and followed Jesus through the sanctuary, then had greater understanding. We also see in Matthew chapter 22 in the parable how the investigation of the guests and the judgment takes place prior to the wedding feast. In this parable, after the guests are examined and probation closes, the guests go in and the door is then shut. In ancient Israel, on the Day of Atonement, the children of Israel fasted and prayed. And whilst today we're living in the antitypical Day of Atonement, and it's taking longer than one literal day, we can still fast through our lifestyle of sobriety, dedication, commitment, and full surrender to Jesus, and pray without ceasing. As the first angel's message is understood in greater clarity, we can preach the second and third angel's message more clearly. May we not be passive during this time. May we follow Jesus in his ministry, and may we always plead for his blood to cover our lives.